Wisconsin Lutheran College divers dove the east basin of the lake this year and the central northern point of the lake this year. And we got into the lake nearly 10 days earlier than we did last year. It made for some colder water, but much better visibility. Our goal this year was to view some fish cribs, one of which you are seeing here, as well as get video of the diverse habitat and substrate that you have on Beaver Lake. Those fish cribs add to the diversity of habitat in a localized way, but many other natural facets of the lake and its bottom contribute to that diversity of habitat. And habitat diversity is beneficial to the ecological community of the lake because it allows for a diversity of organisms to thrive and a complete food web to be present. Part of that food web includes small forage fish like darters, and you will see a darter, possibly a rainbow darter, perched on this rock on the left. He just swam away. This cobbly substrate on the north point provides lots of cracks for those fish to hide in, whereas this silty substrate often harbors native mussels and can support plant communities that in turn support inverts and fish. And so it's no wonder that largemouth bass and other predators that ambush their prey prowl areas like this for prey that might be darting in and out. Here we have a stand of potamogeton or pondweed species, and you may think of them as simply weeds and they might not be comfortable to swim in, but fish love them, and you can see the inverts due to those black dots on those aquatic plants are snails, and other inverts love them as well. This is an expanse of chara or muskgrass, and these muskgrasses and other macroalgae species are the dominant vegetation type on Beaver Lake. Our divers even ran into a stand of milfoil, which is seen at the bottom. And the curious thing about this milfoil is there was a school of crappies and some other fish hanging over it. And so it goes to show that even an invasive plant can provide structure that fish and other organisms love. One thing that seems sort of rare on Beaver Lake is this large woody debris on the bottom. If it's too close to the surface, maybe it's a hazard for boaters, but if not, it can provide excellent cover for fish and forage fish and invertebrates. A real treat was these spawning beds that we found. Likely bass, but other centrarchid species will create spawning beds like this as well. And you can see that they have kicked away the marl substrate and the silt and sand, and what's left is these cast off snail shells that were left in its wake. In some of these, we could even see small fish fry that had just hatched from those eggs. After our dive, we conducted some monitoring that we'll be doing yearly on Beaver Lake, and the goal of this is to provide baseline ecological data to understand if things are changing in the lake, and especially if there are any problems that arise. Here, Faith is sampling aquatic plants at one of the 255 points that we sample each year. Lots of chara at this point. And here she is towing up a plankton sample using a very fine net. We're able to collect zooplankton from the entire water column, and certain groups of those zooplankton may indicate good water quality. We also conducted fish surveys on the lake, and we used trap nets or fyke nets, which you're seeing here. We also used seine nets, which sample forage fish. In this haul, we got a couple long-nosed gar, whereas most of the fish caught in these fyke nets were bluegills, with some rock bass and green sunfish and large and smallmouth bass thrown into the mix. It's quite the commotion when we pull these nets up, but the mortality in sampling like this is extremely low. Those fish typically do just fine after we release them. We typically measure each fish and send it on its merry way. And those measurements let us track differences in the size distribution year over year. Here we have a beautiful pumpkin seed. And this largemouth bass seemed a little deformed with a wonky dorsal fin. To assess the density and species comprising the forage fish community, we run seine hauls near the shore, which is what you're seeing here. The seine has a purse in it and has a cork line and a lead line that creates a wall in the water that prevents fish from escaping. Those fish near the surface are brook silver sides. By looking at several different levels of the food chain, from plant to plankton to forage fish to predators, we hope to get a full understanding of the ecology of the lake and track that through time so that with your help we can understand if the lake is changing and be the best stewards of the lake as we can.